What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Yugi-Kaiba format video. And this video, just like my last couple of videos, is also going to feature the Wicked Worm Beast deck. And it's going to feature in a pretty rough matchup that takes a bit of time to go through. So I'm going to try and get this introduction as quick as possible because the duel replays are probably going to be very long for this video. So, in case you haven't seen my last couple videos, this deck is basically what I call worm control. The whole point of the deck is to use the Wicked Worm Beast to get in for damage and then dodge removal. So, for the monsters, it has 3 Wicked Worm Beast, which is one of the stars of the deck, although you could potentially cut this down to 2 and replace it with something like a D-Spell, Just Desserts, or even something like a Last Will, just to get other Wicked Worm Beasts out of your deck. But I've never been too upset with 3 copies in the deck. We also have 3 Login, 3 Neo, 3 Battle Ox, just the premier level 4 beaters of the format, the level 4 monsters with the highest attack, 3 Man-Eater Bug to act as removal on your opponent's turn, 3 Wall of Illusion to bounce opponent's monsters back to hand and serve as a wall, 1 Summon Skull to pair with a Change of Heart to act as pseudo removal, and also to just be able to get over your opponent's defensive monsters. All the limited power spells, so Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, Raigeki, and Change of Heart, of course. These are just incredibly good in pretty much any deck. 3 Fissure to act as more removal when we need it. 2 Swords Revealing Light to stall and buy time to draw into the pieces we need to take control of the game. And for the traps, we have 3 Reinforcement, 3 Woboku, 3 Trap Hole. Trap Hole acts as removal on your opponent's turn. Reinforcements also act as a form of removal when combined with the monster. And it can also deal an extra bit of damage that can dodge around Woboku, which is the best way to protect both your life points and your monsters in the format. And then we have 2 Ultimate Offering to be able to bring out monsters on our opponent's turn during their battle phase, because we're often going to have an empty board when we use things like Wicked Worm Beast as an offensive engine. For the side deck, we have 3 Trap Master, which for some reason isn't popping up big here, but Trap Master is great against decks that rely very heavily on Ultimate Offering, like stall decks, or even other Wicked Worm Beast decks, or just offensive decks using it. We have 3 Giant Soldier Stone, 2 Summon Skull, 2 Soul Exchange. To side into a more standard soul control deck, we'd side out 3 Wicked Worm Beast, 3 Wall of Illusion, and 1 Ultimate Offering to do that. And that can be useful in matches that play more defensive cards or like stall decks, things like that. And we also have 3 Great White to get even more offensive with the next highest attack on a beater. We have 1 D-Spell to go against decks that are playing Swords Revealing Light and relying on those to stall their opponent. And also we have 1 Ultimate Offering to hedge against our opponent bringing in trap removal to deal with our ultimate offerings. But now that we've gotten the deck breakdown out of the way, let's dive into the duels. Okay, we've got a game against Ellie Tin Can, a regular duelist appearing on the channel. And as I mentioned in the last video, this is a bit of a special game because this is actually the first game that I used the worm control deck in. So I may make some errors here in playing the deck, but you'll see that that might not actually have mattered in the long run when you get into the actual game itself. So let's do that. We have to do the rock, paper, scissors to decide who goes first. And it looks like we will be going first. And you may have noticed that my opponent started with 43 cards in deck, which does indicate that they are likely playing a stall deck. So whenever you see 43 cards in the format, it's not always the case, but it's very likely that your opponent is playing stall mill. And I haven't featured stall mill on the channel yet. I will soon, don't worry. But it can be a bit rough to play against, especially when you have a deck like ours. So let's see what we do here. This isn't the best hand. It's not the worst hand either, but there's not much we can do. We have some walls, which aren't that good against, a mill deck. We have some beaters, which are, and we have Wuboku, which also isn't really that good against a mill deck. So we're just going to set a wall and a Wuboku and then a Fisher and pass back to them. And they're going to set 2 and pass back to us. We do have Summon Skull, which is nice to see. Maybe not at this stage in the game, but we can use that later as a way to get over opponent's 2k defenders. But we're just going to bring out a Lodge in, attack in, we'll take 200, and pass back to our opponent. I think I should have summoned Wicked Wormbeast in to poke in there, but I don't think it matters that much. They're going to set another. We're going to attack into that, and that is another Giant Soldier of Stone. And it's very clear what they're doing by now. If we didn't know what they were doing originally, then we definitely know now that they're just walling up, passing back. We do have Raigeki, which is somewhat nice. So we can actually use Raigeki here to clear their board and get in for some damage. So we're going to bring out Wicked Wormbeast. And we are just going to fire the Raigeki right away. There's arguments to be made for holding this card in hand, but oftentimes when you're playing against a stall mill deck, you really do want to take your opportunities to get in massive damage where you can find them. And, you know, if we clear 2 monsters, that can deprive them of some monsters. And we do have a Fisher to clear whatever else they bring out. So we will be able to keep sinking in some damage for the next 2 turns. So we will fire the Raigeki now and try and attack in. And unfortunately, they've found their ultimate offering, or one of their 3 ultimate offerings. So they will be able to actually bring out another defender on our turn. So we are going to attack in with the Wicked Wormbeast and take 6 here. And we won't be able to get over that Mystical Elf. Wicked Wormbeast will return to hand, and we're in a very tough spot here. Ultimate Offering being online is just very annoying. It means that we likely won't be able to get in any damage each turn, even if we have removal. So we'll bring out Wicked Wormbeast. We will flip up the wall just in case we do manage to get in for damage. We will Fisher their monster. We'll start attacking in, but they do have another monster. So we'll attack it with the Lodge in, and the wall will bounce Lodge into hand, which honestly is fine. It leaves us less vulnerable to a board clear, so not the worst thing in the world. We'll get the Wicked Wormbeast back and pass back to them. And they'll just pass back to us, you know. They've got a pretty good board state here, and there's nothing we can really do about it. We could summon Skull, attack into the wall, get Skull back to hand, and, you know, have it basically dodge removal that way. I don't think that's necessarily the best option, because if they have a trap hole, then we lose out on Summon Skull, and that's really bad. So we'll just set 1, summon another monster, pass back to them. I think we're trying to bait out some removal here, because we've got all other monsters in hand. So we'll just bring out the Battle Ox, pass back to them. We can't really do anything with that. We will bring out the Summon Skull, and they do reveal a trap hole. So unfortunately, our gamble didn't pay off. But they're going to draw. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw another Wuboku, which is not very useful right now. But at least it won't necessarily clog up our back row, because we can just activate it during our turn. And we can activate multiple during our turn if we so choose. And the win condition of that deck is not, you know, to deplete us of life points. It's to deprive us of cards and have us run out of cards in the deck. So, you know, we don't necessarily have to worry about wasting Wubokus, but it's not looking good for us. We don't have any removal to deal with their monster, and they're just drawing more cards, drawing more potential monsters to bring out off of Ultimate Offering. So this is just not looking good. That Ultimate Offering is okay. It allows us to make more offensive pushes later on, but if we can't get through their monsters, then there's no way we'll be able to make an offensive push. So we'll set 1, and I think we're trying to bluff a Man-Eater Bug here, hoping that they'll use some removal on this. And they will Change of Heart it, which is good. They'll flip it up. We will Trap Hole it, mainly just to use up the Trap Hole, honestly. and they'll pass back to us. We have a man-eater bug for real now, so we will be able to set that. They'll just set one, pass back to us. Pot of Greed's an interesting draw here. Against a mill deck, there's arguments to not actually use it because it just gets you closer to losing. But honestly, you know, with the way that things are, our opponent has 6 cards in hand. They've got Ultimate Offering online. We really need to get some way to deal with their defensive threat. So I actually do think that firing the Pot of Greed now is the good option. So we will go for it, just trying to get anything that can get us out of this situation. We'll flip up the Man-Eater, and we're just going to attack in. I mean, I think we could have brought out a Wicked Worm Beast here just in case. It won't matter because they do have a defender, so, you know, it won't make a difference, but we probably should have brought out the Wicked Worm Beast just in case they had a really, really bad series of draws. We will set another Man-Eater bug. So I guess that's why we didn't bring out the Wicked Worm Beast, because we wanted to set up for attacking in next turn. And we'll activate Swords here mainly because we have another Swords in hand and we want to clear it from the Spell and Trap card zone eventually. So at least this way in 3 turns we'll be able to clear up that spot and be able to put down another Spell or Trap. But we will flip up Man-Eater, and I think we definitely should have just brought out a Wicked Worm Beast here, but again, it won't actually matter. We'll just set a Waboku. Again, Waboku is not a bad card to put in the back row because you can clear it very easily. And we'll pass back to them. They're just going to pass back to us. And we put one on Swords. We'll activate Swords again. It doesn't matter really at this point. They'll set one, pass back to us. It's another monster. Can't really do anything here. They'll set another monster, pass back to us. Because they know we don't have Raigeki, so they can feel comfortable doing this. And we're just going to attack into that monster. Spirit of the Harp. Can't do anything about that. End of turn, we are at 7 cards in hand, so we will just discard the Ultimate Offering, as we don't really want to clog up a Spell and Trap card zone. So they're just going to set another, pass back to us. Reinforcements is good. It enables our Lodgin or Battleox to get over one of their monsters, but it's a case of too little too late here. You know, it's just our opponent has got this game pretty much on lock. You know, there's nothing we can really do to overcome their defensive power right now. And it's just a slow, basically, bleeding out of resources. Our opponent will reborn the Summoned Skull, which, you know, they might as well, because if we draw Reborn and reborn our Summoned Skull, then that would be really bad for us. And we clearly don't have much removal at this moment. So they will just attack into a Man-Eater bug. And we'll actually take it. I mean, I think we should have just used a Waboku, because when else are we going to be able to use a Waboku? But, what can you do? And they'll set one card at the end of their turn. And pass back to us. We're just going to set a Wicked Worm Beast and switch everything to defense. Pass back to them. And honestly, we probably could have admitted defeat by now, but we're playing this out. You know, it always is worth it just to play out any game that you're in, just to see if, you know, if it's mathematically impossible that you can win, then sure, don't do it. But like, if there's even a chance that you might be able to win, it's always nice just to play it out just in case. But it's looking real grim. You know, we'll set another Wicked Worm Beast, and we'll pass back to them. Fisher is also too little too late. At this point, I think we're just waiting on Dark Hole. If we can draw Dark Hole, we can clear the board and hopefully get in for damage. But they discarded a monster, which means that they probably have more monsters in hand. So it ain't looking good for us. We'll set a third Wicked Worm Beast and pass back to our opponent. They're going to clear the Neo, pass back to us, discard another Defender. We draw another Fisher, we'll set another monster, pass back to them. And they will attack into Wicked Worm Beast. We'll lose the Wicked Worm Beast. They'll discard another monster. And now we have reinforcements, which we will just set. Because we can always use up Owoboku to clear space to activate the Dark Hole. But yeah, it ain't looking good. We do finally have the Dark Hole. And now actually we do have an interesting way to not lose out on too much value here. Because normally if we'd activate the Dark Hole here, we'd lose 4 cards, basically, the Dark Hole and all the monsters we have. And we'd only be dealing with 4 of their cards, all 4 of their monsters. So what we can actually do here is we can flip up the 2 Wicked Worm Beasts, wait till the end phase, return them to hand, and then, they'll attack in with the Summoned Skull, or we can Woboku them and, protect our life points if they do make an offensive push. And then we'll be able to Dark Hole their entire board without losing too many of our own monsters next turn. I forget whether we do that or not, but it is a thinker. We are just going to Dark Hole the whole board, I guess. We don't want to tip them off that we do have a Dark Hole, but I don't think that was necessarily a good idea. But, it's tough to say. I think we're just resigned to losing at this point, so I don't think it really matters. We are going to clear up space to activate Reborn, bring out a Summoned Skull, and we will attack into their set. We will be able to clear it, which is very nice, but they do reveal the Soul Exchange, and Stone Mill decks often play Soul Exchange in conjunction with a Gyakutenu Megami, as you can see there. So it is something that you have to be aware of, but with our last sort of monster that can actually beat over a 2K defender without using an additional card gone, it's not looking good for us. We only have 8 cards in deck, so it's looking rough. We will be able to use reinforcements to get over the Gyakuteno Megami, but they're just not in a good spot. They'll set a monster, and we'll just try and bring out a Lodge in, but it gets trap hold, so nothing we can do about that. Attack into the Battle Lock. Well, we'll attack in with the Battle Locks. Take 300. Pass back to them. We can Fisher away that monster next turn, but they've got a Fisher for our monster as well, and they will just set another monster. They know that we don't have board clears anymore, so it's a bit unfortunate. I think we actually probably just should have changed of Hearted that set monster, and then Fishered their Aquamador, tried to get him for damage. Because if it was a Man-Eater Bug, which we know that they have at least 1 Man-Eater Bug left in deck probably. If it was a Man-Eater Bug, we wouldn't have to waste our Fisher. And we'd be able to try to get in for some damage at least. But it just, I don't think we're winning this no matter what here. So we draw a Man-Eater Bug of our own, and we will just set it. And I'm not sure we should have done that just in case their set was a Man-Eater Bug. But they will just Raigeki that because they have the read as Man-Eater Bug, and we only have 5 cards left in deck, so it's not like we'll be able to do anything anyways. We're going to bring out Neo, and we are going to go for the Change of Heart now. We'll flip up the Giant Soldier, and then we'll just Fisher away their monster. Try and attack in for some damage, but they have Woboku, so we're not going to be able to get through. And we'll end turn, so they get control of the Giant Soldier again. And they'll be able to Fisher away our Neo, switch their Soldier to defense, and set 1 more card. And then on top of that, they have Swords. So at this point, I'm pretty sure we've just lost, because we can't attack for 3 turns. This deck doesn't play D-Spell, so we won't be able to get rid of that Swords. And given that they've only used up 1 Woboku, it's very likely they have another Woboku, and it's very unlikely we'll be able to find a way to amass 6,000 points of damage in the 1 turn we have left when Sword expires. So we've just basically lost here. We'll set 2. It doesn't matter at this point, but slightly playing around card destruction, I guess. We draw Wall of Illusion, we'll just set it. And they'll flip up Bug, and they'll just pass back to us. Well, Woboku will set an Ultimate Offering. This way, if they card Destruction, they won't be able to kill us, but it doesn't matter because we're already dead. they're just going to set a monster over there, Many-Ear Bug, and we draw the final card in our deck, which is Reinforcements. They'll reveal Waboku just in case, but the game is over. So that's game one, and that is pretty much the worst matchup you can get for the Worm Control deck. Worm Control has difficulty clearing defense position monsters in general. And so if you're fighting a deck made up pretty much entirely of defensive monsters, your Worm Control deck isn't going to really do you much good. So that was a terrible first game with Worm Control. But for games 2 and potentially 3, we can at least side into the Soul Control package. And the Soul Control package is a much better matchup against Stall Mill. So let's side into that. Let's hope that it goes well. We can also side out things like Trap Hole, Sword of Revealing Light, things like that that wouldn't necessarily be as good against a Stall Mill deck. I don't know if we do, and the reason for that would be that like Stall Mill can side into a more aggressive strategy in games 2 and 3, anticipating that we'll be siding pretty heavily against it and hoping to catch us unawares when we've sided out things that'll be good against an aggro strategy. So there's a debate to leaving them in or taking them out. I forget exactly which one I did, but we'll find out soon. So let's go to game 2. And we are going to go first here. And this is a pretty decent hand. We have one beater. We have Many-Ear Bug to deal with a monster. We have Trap Hole if they are still on the aggro strategy. And we have Swords to stall if they're on an aggro strategy. So it looks like we kept in the cards that are good against aggro. And oh, also I didn't even mention we have 2 board clears. So that's very good as well. Let's see what we're going to do. We're just going to bring out a Neo, set a Trap Hole, set a Swords, pass back to them. And they're going to bring out a Neo of their own. We're fine with that. This does mean that they're likely on the aggressive strategy now. So I'm glad that we kept in the Trap Hole and the Swords. They're going to Swords, pass back to us. And, you know, there's debate about what to do here. We could Swords them back. We could, you know, set a Many-Ear Bug, but that sort of sets us up to really be punished by Raigeki. So it's tough to say. We're just going to pass. If they do have Lodge-In, we can get rid of it with a Trap Hole. If they have, like, Reinforcements or Fish or something, at least they have to use a card to clear the Neo. And 1700 damage is not that much in the long run. Pot of Greed's a very good card, and they do have a Fisher. So they will be able to get in for 1700. And they'll pass back to us. We have another Many-Ear Bug, which is very nice. We can set a Many-Ear Bug, pass back to them. And Swords should be at 2 here. I don't know why. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Swords is at 2. And they'll pass back to us. And we have a couple options here. We can summon out a Lodge-In, which is just a pretty good beater, hard to get over. We could set a Many-Ear Bug, you know, and pop whatever monster they bring out. There's a couple options. We're just going to bring out a Lodge-In. We have an extra Lodge-In in hand. It can be difficult for our opponent to deal with, so it's not the worst. They're going to Soul Exchange for a Summon Skull, and we will just Trap Hole that, so we can get in for damage next turn because Swords is gone. So that's just what we'll do. We'll summon out Lodge-In, try and get in for some damage. They reveal that they do have Ultimate Offering again, so they will be able to bring out a monster to block us with. It's likely they have Reinforcements, but we're just going to attack into it anyways. At least this way, they have to use up the Reinforcements. So we're okay wasting that. So we'll take 400. And then we're just going to set one, pass back to them. They will attack in with the Battle Ox. 1700 isn't the worst thing in the world, so we're not too torn up about that. We do have a Neo, so we could go for the Neo here, attack into the Battle Ox, try and clear it. But Many-Ear Bug's just the safer option. If they have a Waboku or Reinforcements, you know, we could lose our Neo. And it's better just to play it safe with the Bug. They are going to Change of Heart the bug, which is rough. So they will be able to just destroy the bug if they want to. And they will just do that. They'll flip it up, destroy it with its own effect. We'll take another 17, and we're running very low here, which is unfortunate. But Pot of Greed is a great draw, so we will be able to draw 2. Those are not the best 2 to draw, but, you know, they're what we've got, so we'll have to make do. We will just Swords of Revealing Light here because we're in a tough spot. If they have D-Spell for the swords, we at least have Wuboku to protect our life points, but we just need to draw into some cards that actually deal with the Battle Locks. It is kind of funny, I also want to note, we just have like 4 of the power spells in the format just in a row. Like Pot of Greed into Change of Heart, and we also had Dark Hole and Raigeki from the start, so that's kind of funny to see. But we pass back to them. They'll pass back to us because they can't do anything under swords. We'll set a Wuboku. It doesn't really matter at this point, but it's a bit of a bluff, so we're just passing back and forth. We have another 1700 beater, so we could just try and summon it and attack into their Battle Locks. And that's what we're going to try and do, and they're going to Trap Hole. So I think that's a good Trap Hole on their part. You know, if we have a Fisher, they don't want us getting in for damage potentially. They might also assume we don't have many monsters because we haven't brought any out, so it's not the worst Trap Hole for them. And swords will expire. We're going to bring out a Battle Locks, and since we have the reinforcements in hand, it might be better just to not attack right now and wait for them to attack us. So that's what we'll do. We'll set the reinforcements, pass back to them, dare them to attack. They'll bring out Lajin, which is fine by us. We are going to Wuboku here, I guess, because I guess we can Raigeki them next turn. So we want to save the reinforcements to get over like their 2K defenders. And we have another Wuboku for later. So I think this makes sense. Trapmaster is pretty great. It can allow us to clear their ultimate offering. And we will Raigeki their board. They will pay 5 to set a monster. And we'll attack it. It is a wall. So we will take 150 and just bounce back to hand. And we'll just set the Trapmaster. We could have actually cleared the wall with reinforcements, but I like not doing it because if they summon out a monster, attack into Trapmaster, we can clear their ultimate offering, and then they'll have 2 monsters on field for us to Dark Hole if we so choose. So I do like the play of just doing this. They're going to bring out a Battle Ox, and they are going to attack into the Trapmaster. We have a choice here. So Ultimate Offering is obviously very good, but it's less good in this sort of just straight aggro deck than it would be in the Stall Mill deck. So we could just target their other set in case it's a more impactful trap card. So let's see what we do here. We will target their other set, and it is a Wuboku, which I do think that worked out well for us. We hit a card that can just unilaterally protect them, whereas Ultimate Offering needs monsters in hand to do that. And we do have some ways of clearing their monsters that they bring out with it. So I do think that was the right choice to hit Wuboku. And Summon Skull is very good. This gives us actually some more options outside of Dark Holing, because we could Change of Heart, tribute out the Summon Skull. We could Soul Exchange, like their Wall of Illusion, bring out the Summon Skull. They've only used up 1 Fisher, so that might be a bit of a risk, but at least they don't have Trap Hole. So there's a bunch of options that we have here. I think, yeah, Dark Holing is, I think, the right play, because we can always just save the Soul Exchange for a set monster, which could get a bit more value, and also we could have them waste a Fisher on this Battle Ox instead of the Summon Skull in hand. So we will just attack in for 17 with the Battle Ox. So, and this sort of shows that, you know, leaving the Ultimate Offering, I think, was the right choice, because it seems they don't have any monsters in hand to deal with this. So they'll bring out a Neo, and they will Fisher our Battle Ox, and they'll chain to that Fisher Ultimate Offering, which is a very clever way to use Ultimate Offering. This way they can dodge Trap Hole, and they will be able to bring out Summon Skull. We will Wuboku that, because if we take it, we just lose. And now we have some options as well. We could Change of Heart their Summon Skull to get in for damage and then tribute off our own. But I think it might be better just to Soul Exchange it, and that's what we do. We do lose an opportunity to deal a lot of damage to them, but Soul Exchange is basically useless when you don't have a Tribute monster in hand, and Change of Heart has other uses outside of just tributing off. So I think it's right to do this play. We don't get to attack, which stinks, but at least if they clear Summon Skull with a Fisher, we do have a Battle Ox for next turn. And so then they don't actually, so that's very good. And we actually do have a Change of Heart, so we can bring out a Summon Skull later. We'll bring out a Battle Ox. They've not used up any board clears, but we do want to just go for as much damage as possible right now because we don't really have a way to deal with if they bring out just a full frontal assault. And so we're just going to go in for a ton of damage, and they will take it all, which is very nice for us. We can't do lethal here, which is unfortunate, even though we do have reinforcements. So, you know, that's kind of rough, but at least they only have one activation of Ultimate Offering left, and they'll just set one and pass, which is very good. If that's not a Woboku, we just win here, but it turns out that's a Woboku. So, nothing we can do about that. We'll just pass back to them. And they did not draw what they needed. Yeah, they really didn't draw what they needed. So we will manage to scrape out a victory in game 2. And you know, I think that duel kind of shows that the Soul Control package can deal with other decks as well, besides just, you know, stall mill decks. I've shown a lot of videos with Soul Control before this, and it's a powerful deck on its own. And if your opponent isn't expecting you to be on Soul Control for games 2 and 3, maybe they sided things in against, like, against Ultimate Offering sort of decks and things like that, then it can be a good side-in option, even against non-stall mill strategies. But it came in handy here. We didn't really get to see the matchup of Soul Control versus stall mill, but I'll give you a slight spoiler alert. You might see it in game 3. So we do keep the Soul Control side here, and the reason for that is, you know, it might come back to bite us if they side against Soul Control. But if they side into Stall Mill, then we just hard lose if we side back to Worm Control. So Soul Control at least has a good matchup against Stall Mill and has a decent matchup against a regular aggro deck as well. So we will just keep the Soul Control side in. And this time we're going seconds. And this is a pretty good hand. Having a Trapmaster early will enable us to deal with their early Ultimate Offerings. So it's not the worst thing to see. They're just going to set 2 and pass. And this is a decent hand. We have a Beater and a Trap Hole to protect it. We also have a Fisher to potentially clear a monster that they bring out. So we're feeling pretty good about this. We'll attack into the Giant Soldier, take 3, set Trap Hole and a Bluff, pass back to them. And they're just going to pass back to us, which, you know, could signal that they have Ultimate Offering. But if they don't, it's very good for us. So we're just going to bring out a Neo and Fisher away their monster and try and attack in for damage. Yes, this does play into board clears, but, you know, if they did side into the Stall Mill strategy, we want to get as much damage as early as we can on board. So they do have Ultimate Offering here, which is unfortunate. We will just attack into that elf and we'll set the Woboku, pass back to them. This is not what you want to see against the Stall Mill deck. Yeah, if they can get Ultimate Offering online early, it can basically be game over. But a game's not over till it's over. We'll set the Trapmaster here. Sure, if they have Raigeki, this can be really brutal for us, but if they don't, we can at least clear the Ultimate Offering and potentially get in for damage if we find some way to get rid of that Mystical Elf. They're just going to set 2, pass back to us, and Change of Heart is a way to kind of clear the Mystical Elf. We can at least get it to our side of the field and attack in with it if we so choose. It's not the best play because it doesn't, you know, act as removal for the elf, but it's not the worst either. We'll choose not to do it this turn, and I think that's wise. We might as well bide our time. because against Stall Mill, there's kind of, two ways to go. You can go ultra aggressive, just try and deal as much damage as possible, as early as possible, to make it more likely that you'll be able to win near the end of the game and not just get locked out. Or you can play conservatively, preserve power cards for later to make huge pushes on any given turn. But we do draw a Summoned Skull, so it might be worth just going for the Change of Heart play here, even though it does play into board removals. We are just going to try and attack in, and this would be great if it hits. Unfortunately, they have another Ultimate Offering, so they will be able to dodge that, and we won't be able to get over that Spirit of the Harp. And main 2, we are just going to tribute off their Mystical Elf, summon out the Summoned Skull, hoping to bait out like a Trap Hole or something, because it's better than baiting out Raigeki with 4 monsters on board. We do bait out the Trap Hole, so we will lose the Summoned Skull, but this isn't the worst thing in the world for us. We don't have any way to clear the Spirit of the Harp, but, if we can draw that, we're in a very good position. We'll switch Trapmaster to defense, pass back to them. They'll Pot of Greed, very unfortunate for us. Pass back to us, that will not help us here. We'll set Ultimate Offering, pass back to them. They're going to set another card, pass back to us. Reinforcements is a way to get over their Spirit of the Harp, so we are going to be banking on that. And another Trapmaster is very good. We can clear their Ultimate Offering. But before doing that, we'll set 1 monster just to bait out like removal of some kind. So that way our Trapmaster will survive. If this doesn't bait out removal, we can always attack into the Spirit of the Harp next turn and use reinforcements to try to get in for damage. But this will bait out some removal. They will Soul Exchange, pass back to us. And now we can feel comfortable setting the Trapmaster to clear their Ultimate Offering on our next turn. Maneater Bug's very good here as well. And we will actually Dark Hole, which is an extreme measure. We're losing a lot more cards than they are. But if we can actually get in for damage, it will all be worth it. We can't, though. They have a Trap Hole. So I think it's debatable whether that Dark Hole was a good play. We could have just set the Maneater Bug, bided our time for 1 more turn, and cleared their set with the Bug, cleared their other monster with a reinforcements, and potentially get in for some damage. So I think we misplayed there. We'll see if it comes back to bite us. They bring out Aquamador to try and attack in, figuring we don't have any monsters in hand, which we only have a Maneater Bug, so that's slightly true. But we do have a Trap Hole, so we will be able to get rid of that Aquamador. And we won't set the other Trap Hole. I think we could have. I think maybe we should have, because they've shown that they're willing to summon out monsters to attack in, but we don't. Pass back to them. They will bring out a Mystical Elf that dodge Trap Hole, so this is pretty rough for us. And they will reborn our Summoned Skull, so that will be incredibly rough for us if this attack connects. And luckily we have Ultimate Offering, so we will be able to bring out the Bug during their turn, and they will just not even take the bait. They're going to Raigeki, so that way we don't get our Bug effect, which is very unfortunate. And they're just going to activate Swords just so we can't attack over the Elf. Pass back to us, and reinforcements is not what we want to see right now. We really wanted some form of monster or something, but alas, we'll set the reinforcements, then Trap Hole, pass back to them. We do have another Wuboku, so we will be able to not take damage now. So we will use it up and pass back to them. Raigeki is a great draw. We'll be able to use that to clear their board. Question is, do we use it now or later? I think we use it later, because we have a Wuboku to block the damage here, and if they commit another monster to board, then Raigeki will be even better. They unfortunately won't commit a monster to board, they're just going to attack in. And we will actually take it. I guess we're saving the Wuboku for later. I'm not exactly sure why we do that. I think I know why. I think we're trying to bait them into leaving their mystical elephant to attack next turn, so that way we can attack over it if we draw a monster. So I think that would be clever if that's what we're doing. But let's see if that's what we're actually doing. Pass back to them. They bring out a Spirit of the Harp, and that's very good for us. We're going to Waboku. They're switching Mystical Elf to defense, but we have a Raigeki in hand to be able to clear their entire board, which is very nice. So we will do that, clear their entire board away, and we will be able to attack in for 1800, which is very nice. And we have reinforcements to get over our opponent's defenders, so we're feeling very good about this. They're just going to set one, set another, pass back to us. Pot of Greed's a very good draw. Again, it's not necessarily the right move to use it against stall mill decks, but we've got the upper hand here right now. Even though they have 5 cards in hand, it seems like they don't have an ultimate offering, and we've got offensive pressure on board. So I think it is just good to use the Pot of Greed now. Drawing into another Lodgin is very nice. They have used Raigeki, so we could reasonably bring out the Lodgin and try and make a bigger push. So we will actually do that. We are going to chain Ultimate Offering to itself to make sure the Lodgin does not die to a trap hole. And we will attack into the Spirit of the Heart reinforcements to get over it, and then get in for another 1800. We're going to set another reinforcements, pass back to them, and they will set 2 pass back to us. Seems like they don't have Dark Hole, which is very nice. We're going to attack in with the Lodgin, and we are just going to use up another reinforcements to get over this wall. Attack in for 1800, and now they're within striking distance of lethal. And this feels very good. So we're going to pass back to them. They do have a Fisher, which is unfortunate. So we might not be able to win this turn. But we will be able to Soul Exchange away their monster. Set the Summon Skull, and this is a really cool play because we do have the Trap Hole to stop it if they try and bring out like a Giant Soldier of Stone to get over the Summon Skull. And this will play around Fisher because we know that they have 2 Fishers left. So it won't necessarily play around Ultimate Offering, but if we can play around Fisher, it's worth setting. So we will do that, and we will pass back to them. They're going to bring out an Aquamador, and we will trap hole that. It was honestly probably fine if we let the Aquamador attack in, because it would tie with our monster. But, you know, why take chances? We're going to trap hole. They're going to set another. They will card destruction here. And now they're still up on card. We'd still lose if it goes to a mill out, but like Monster Reborn's a very good draw for us. So we're very happy about that. We draw Neo, and we will just flip up Summon Skull, try baiting out the trap hole. We will bring out Neo, trying to potentially bait out another trap hole. And we will just attack in with the Neo. And they do have a Waboku, which, you know, we could have probably guessed, but we're feeling pretty good about this. So we'll pass back to them. They will Fisher, which is unfortunate, but we do have Reborn to bring back like a Summon Skull when we can. And they will set 2 and pass. Soul Exchange is a very good draw. You know, if we draw another Summon Skull, we can get over their monster without triggering its effect. So we're just going to pass here. They'll bring out a Giant Soldier. We're just going to trap hole it, because why not? But yeah, they're just going to pass back to us. And Bug is pretty good. We'll set it. You know, if they've got a Bug, we'll lose it. But, like, we can bait out their Bug at least. And it will bait out their Bug indeed. They're going to attack in for 450. We are perfectly okay with that. They'll set another pass back to us. And it's a Neo. So we can just bring out the Neo and potentially have a wall against the Bug. We choose to set it, which is good. It's playing around Fisher, because if they have a Fisher, they can Fisher away the Neo. And it's also somewhat playing around... Oh, they've used up 3 trap holes, so it's not playing around trap hole. But playing around Fisher is good enough. We'll pass back to them, and they will just switch the Bug to defense, set another card, and pass back to us. Battle Ox is a pretty good draw here. We will just be able to get in, clear their Bug, and try and clear their set monster, which we will do. It's a wall. so we will reinforcements to get over it. If they draw another defender, that'll be unfortunate, but not the worst thing in the world since we have the reborn. They are just going to set one and pass back to us. And we have an option here. We can reborn our Summoned Skull to attack in this turn. We can Soul Exchange their set just to get a Summoned Skull on field and deprive them of their bug effect if it is bug. And that is what we'll do. We're not in too much of a hurry since they're really running low on monsters. And we've got 7 turns at least to wrap this thing up. So we're fine losing a battle phase. They do have Dark Hole, so they will clear our board. And they will manage to set another monster. We'll bring out Neo, and we will reborn the Skull. And if that's not a Woboku, we just win here. So it is a Woboku, unfortunately. So we won't necessarily win here, but we have a very good chance of winning next turn. So they're just going to set one, pass back to us. We will Fisher away their monster. And that will be the end of the game. Because that was just an extra ultimate offering. So the ultimate offerings can brick occasionally. But I think they'd actually used up their last Woboku. Oh no, they had one Woboku left in deck. But to be fair, I don't think that extra Woboku would have helped them that much. Because there wasn't much they could do on this board state. Anyways, I know that match was a long one, so I tried to make it as quick as possible. And to that extent, I won't, draw out my final thoughts here as well. I'll make it short and sweet. I hope that these games sort of showed how Worm Control can really struggle against a Stall Mill deck, at least in Game 1. Sure, we won the overall match, but that was because we sided into Soul Control, and we started down a game. So if our opponent had won either Games 2 or 3, they would have just won the match. So Worm Control does have a really tough time against these sorts of decks, even if they side in well for Games 2 and 3. But I do think besides Game 1, I think that Games 2 and 3 had a lot of back and forth action. I think they were somewhat enjoyable, so I hope that you agreed. And I hope that you enjoyed the video overall, even though it was a bit grueling. I'm not sure exactly what my next video will be. I might keep on showing off some more Worm Control. I might show a Soul Control deck. I might just, dive right into Stall Mill. But whatever it is, I'm sure it will be fun. And I hope you'll enjoy it. But until then, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.